saying like, I'm grateful to be here, and I'm
Yep.
grateful for the opportunity to suffer in a way that I deem positive for myself. Some people have to suffer in horrible situations that they don't choose, You and I and all these other runners, we get to choose where we challenge ourselves, and we do it intentionally to bring it back to our personal life so we can be better human beings to our family, to our loved ones, to our bosses, to our coworkers, in our jobs, all that. And so, getting to the finish line, I think for anybody is that moment to celebrate and go, you know what? Like, I chose to do this. I chose to train for it. I wanted to give up during it, which is weird because I chose to take on this opportunity, but I didn't. I persevered and I made it to the finish line, and that was the end of Hardrock for me.
Running is a strange thing. Some people find it on the sidewalk at sunrise. Some find it deep in the mountains, chasing daylight. And some of us find it when life feels heavy, and running is the only thing that makes sense. For some, it starts with a 5K. For others, it's a marathon. And for a few, it's 100 miles that changes everything. But somewhere between the first step and the finish line, something happens. Running stops being about pace, or distance, or medals. It becomes about purpose. I'm your host, Ryan Head, and this is Reimagine Running, the podcast dedicated to talking about why we run. Each episode, we'll sit down with runners from every background, trail runners, road runners, beginners, veterans, and talk about their journey. Not just where they've run, but why they run. Because for many of us, running didn't just change our fitness, it helped us find clarity, healing, discipline, hope, and sometimes even ourselves. Whether your why was born on a short loop around the block or somewhere deep inside a long, lonely mile, this podcast is for you. Welcome to Reimagine Running. All right, everybody, welcome back to Reimagine Running, the podcast talking about why we run. I'm really excited for this episode. This one is one that I have been thinking about for a long time. My guest that we have on today is someone that I have known for many years now, and is someone who, when I first came up with this podcast idea, I know I've said this quite a bit, he was one of my original guest ideas that I had. I didn't know for sure if he'd be willing to or be able to. You know how some people are. Some people don't want the limelight, and that's totally fine. It's just, that's how my wife is. But he was someone that I was really excited about because not only is he someone that I've come to know quite a bit by working with him with the Ogden Marathon, but he's been someone who has just been so dominant in the ultra running scene. I know he's gone through some injuries and some other things, but he's come back. He's been on fire. He had some great stuff happen this year as well. I don't want to spoil it. I'll let him be the one to tell us all about these stories, but I've just been excited. I've been excited to bring on my guest, Alex Docta, to this episode today, who, again, he is just a fantastic individual, does a lot of work for the Ogden area because he is a part of the Goal Foundation, who is very, very involved in the community. And as he knows, as I know, we're both very passionate about community. That is a very big aspect of what we both do. And it has been something just been fun to see how much, not only just the Goal Foundation and what their outreach and what they're doing, but just the running club and just everything in general. It's been fun to just see this Ogden community kind of grow, if you will, or bloom. Because I think we both could probably say, when we first both kind of got into all of this, it was blooming, but it was a lot smaller. But I think it's just been really cool to see, especially in the last year or so, just what is happening in this Ogden area. So anyways, I'm excited to bring Alex on. Let me give just a little intro about who he is. Alex currently resides here in the Utah area. He is very involved in the community, as well as he is one of the directors for the Goal Foundation. Very involved, has been instrumental in bringing the Ogden Marathon to fruition multiple years now, as well as last thing I'll touch on, but I'm going to let him give a lot of this. Alex is very, very fast, and he has set some records. He's in some top 10 paces for many races in this area. And so it's a joy to bring him on. You could almost call him elite. He probably doesn't want to be called elite, but I'm going to call him elite. It's cool to see what he's been doing. Anyways, Alex, I'll quit blabbering on, but dude, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Appreciate you having me. I think, I don't know, like running wise, I don't know what you call me, elite, sub-elite, whatever. It's funny, I'm getting old enough where I'm like, I don't know if the category even matters. You're trying for something for a while speed wise, and then you're like, nah, I just enjoy running. And and I like bringing the best out of myself. And then the Goal Foundation, I think where I work, I'm the director of operations there, and I've been race director for the Ogden Marathon for the past 4 races, which is cool. It's an unbelievable community event. It's an unbelievable nonprofit, the Goal Foundation is. And I think what you're speaking to is, we're kind of both a part of the current generation of the Goal Foundation or the Ogden Marathon, right? Like you've been an Ogden Marathon ambassador for the past few years here, and you've been a huge part of growing the run club, of helping coach the athletes that want to use kind of the official training plan of the Ogden Marathon. And yeah, it's not, the Goal Foundation, I can look at it as kind of this linear growth thing and transitions and changes. And really it's like generational. We have a team that most of them have been here between 2 and 3 to 4 seasons now. And you and our whole kind of ambassador team are a part of that generation. So yeah, it's been fun to get to know you the whole time I've been here at Goal, which is awesome. And just see what we've been able to kind of institute and bring to the plate and share with our community.
Yeah. And I apologize. I'm not taking away anything from the previous generations,
sure.
if you will.
No.
They have done, I know quite a few of the previous staff, the administration behind the scenes of because right, guys, if you think the Ogden Marathon is just a snap your finger and it all comes together, there is so much that goes on, the amount of volunteer hours. I'm going to let Alex talk about this because it's way over my head. He's a professional, but I think it'll be really cool to hear people, a little bit more about this today, because I think a lot of times we don't realize the work that goes into making some of these races happen. And it's just a testament to the dedication, the commitment, and the love. Because I do think, like, in a way, yeah, it's a job. It's like anybody's job, but you got to love what you're doing, because if not, I think it would become a little too stressful. So anyways, not taking away from the previous generations, just it's amazing what you've been doing. It's been fun to be a part of it. It's been fun to work with you and just kind of see where things go. So before we jump into it with Alex, I do want to just make 2 quick plugs. We've already kind of done one already, but we're going to do it anyways. First one is, want to give a big shout out to our premier sponsor, Fleet Feet, of the podcast. Fleet Feet's been doing an amazing job in the community. Big help to anybody who needs shoe, nutrition needs, gear needs. Stop over, see those guys both in Ogden and Layton. They'll get you taken care of. So Jamie over there doing some great stuff. If you're looking for coaching, if you're looking for any kind of assistance, stop by, talk with them. They've got programs throughout the whole year for all kinds of different race distances. So take a look at them. As well as I want to make a quick plug for my favorite road race out there, the Ogden Marathon. I know right now this episode is going to get released in August. I know the race is in May, but I'm telling you, in my personal opinion, I've said it before in previous episodes, I'll say it again, Ogden is the best marathon in the state of Utah. I'd arguably say it's probably one of the top 5 in the Western United States as well. Go sign up, guys. You're not going to be disappointed. It is a beautiful race. Every year I meet people from outside the state. I meet people outside of the country who have come here. They've heard about how beautiful it is. Running down from Causey Reservoir, running through, I think, South Fork Canyon, coming around Pine View, running through Ogden Canyon. There's really not a better experience. So sign up, go take care of this, as well as they have other races. The Goal Foundation does a lot of other races throughout the year. So make sure, go check these guys out. You can sign up for any one of these. There's just a lot of love that gets put into what they're trying to accomplish. So give them some love, guys. So awesome. Well, Alex, before we jump into it, like I've been doing a lot of, it's kind of a trick question I'll throw at you. I didn't let on to this, and I was going to do this to him when we were talking beforehand. But before we jump into running, one of my favorite things I've been doing with every one of my guests, what is something outside of running that you're passionate about? It can be anything. What's something else that you would say, it's probably at the same level as running, but maybe it's even higher. Maybe you're like, we've had people come on and talk about planting, gardening. We've had people talking about doing glass work, which is impressive. And we've had people, it's been all over the gamut. So I ask you, what's something else you're passionate about outside of running?
Yeah, it's, there's kind of like a lot of things, but I like gardening a lot. And I actually like using my voice. I grew up singing in different choirs, being in bands. I still sing a bit now. I'm not in a band currently, but I announce events on the side. So I go and travel around and announce a few events each year. And so I guess I like singing, maybe that's the thing. That's my side hustle passion, I guess, in addition to running.
That's awesome. I didn't know that about you. Yes, obviously I've heard you MC, if that's the right word, for some of the races and stuff. And you have a good voice. I don't know what the right terminology is for that, but you have like a soothing voice. I don't know if that's the right term, if you weird, but but like you have a voice that I could totally get where you're coming from. So a couple questions like I'll throw at you about that because I'm very interested. So first off, what kind of, like you say you've been in some bands, like what kind of
Yeah.
genre of music have you
Yeah,
been in?
so
I'm excited
like
about that.
classic rock, grunge rock, pop, like it kind of all falls in there. Like I grew up listening to classic rock. So by classic rock, I guess it's like Elton John, Bob Seger, like Fleetwood Mac, like stuff like that.
Let's go.
My mom was a young mother, you know. She had me when she was 19. So we like the coolest, I'm the oldest, and we grew up listening to what she was listening to. And that was classic rock. And then that was like grunge, you know. So like Chris Cornell, Soundgarden really merged
Mm-hmm.
into like Chris Cornell leading Audio Slave, which was like for me generationally was my band, I guess. But Smashing Pumpkins, you know, anybody that fits in there, Alice in Chains, Marcy Playground. But then, you know, like appreciating everything, I guess. It's just if you like using your voice and you like making sounds, which I guess I always have, maybe just to fill the void. Yeah, so anyways, in bands, I guess predominantly rock music, and then I play a passable rhythm guitar. I learned to play guitar
Okay.
mainly, I guess, at the end of high school, beginning of college, mainly so I could sing along with myself, you know, as opposed to just singing to the radio and stuff. So with that, I play like everything. But yeah, it's fun.
That's super cool, dude. I had no idea. And it's funny how much me and you are very similar on our music tastes. Like, well done. Like, I'm
Yeah.
a huge grunge guy as well. Obviously, I think we're about the same age. So we grew up in the beautiful time of music there. And then yeah, classic rock, 70s, 80s rock,
Mhm.
just some of my favorite. I mean, you Fleetwood Mac, like, come on, like who are we talking about here? Like just
Yeah.
some amazing albums. And I mean, I could keep going on, but that's just really cool. I love it. I
Yeah.
love where you're going with that. So that's super cool. One question I'd throw at you about that last question I'll ask about music. I'm assuming you took voice lessons or anything like
Yeah.
that, or not really?
Yeah, well, I grew up, you know, you grew up singing in choir like in
Okay,
grade
yeah,
school and stuff like that. And there was I guess there was a moment for me that was special. I remember being in 5th grade and my music teacher came up afterwards and was like, "Hey, I was listening, you know, people were singing and there was this voice and I was trying to figure out whose it was and it was yours and I think you should go try out for this boys choir, this kind of regional like traveling choir thing that happens." And I grew up in Wisconsin. It's called the Appleton Boys Choir, and so it was like a big deal. It was like there are like a couple kids from each city that are chosen to go do these tryouts and get on with this, and it kind of, I guess, it empowered me. We'll talk about empowerment, I'm sure, with running, and it empowered me in a way that made me feel confident about like something that I knew I always put like all my passion into. Like when I'm singing, like I'm focused, and it's the same kind of flow state that I can find during running, and so that was a moment for me. So like, you know, it not like voice lessons individual and stuff, although I have done a little bit of singing and vocal lessons here in Utah, actually, in my adult age, the same way that I've started to like bring coaching into my life and have a coach for running.
heck
I've
yeah.
a little bit of that with vocal work as well. But yeah, it's just been really more of a passion and just something I've just followed throughout life. And as I got into college, I started seeking out like finding where I could lead sing in a band and getting with that group and having fun with that. And yeah, it's just been a little bit of a journey.
That's super cool, man. I was gonna say because we get all kinds of walks of life. I mean, as you know, like yes, we're all runners when we go to these group runs or we're doing races. Like we're all runners for a couple of hours, whatever it is, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever hours it is. But then we all live our regular lives, right? And so I always like that's one of my favorite things to talk about on our group runs when we do them on Saturdays. Is I'm always like, what do you do outside of running? Because I know we're all here runners and all that, but like, what do you do? Like, what's your job or what are you passionate about and stuff? And so I'm sure we'll have, someone listening
Yeah.
that's an
Yeah.
aspiring singer or wants to be a part of a band or they are a part of a band. And I always like to kind of ask some questions around these types of things because it gives a little bit more context. And like you
Yeah,
said,
for
yes,
sure.
you go seek out a coach, but especially if you're a youth, like don't be afraid to try out for choir. Go talk to your choir teacher and, ask the right questions. And then, ask people who've gone before you. I think that's such a story of life in so many ways of, ask people who've done it before you. I mean, that's how I was with Wasatch. My first time I asked everybody I knew, how do you attack this race? And I'm telling you, I still do it to this day. I'll still go back to those same people and just say, what am I forgetting? What am I missing? and just get feedback. So it's a beautiful thing. So that's
Yeah, for
awesome. Well, that's cool. Well, dude, thanks for sharing that. That's super cool.
yeah,
I love
yeah,
that.
yeah,
That's definitely, I didn't know that about you. So
yeah.
that's awesome.
If you dig a little deeper, you can find some interesting stuff on the Facebook or the YouTube channel, or, things that are like particular to me playing music as opposed to running, So it's out there if you want to see it. I'll send you a link later if you're really
Yeah,
interested.
dude. Heck yeah.
It's something that I knew about you that we don't talk about, but because you and Tim, a lot of times when you're finishing your runs or posting it on Strava, you'll post a song lyric or a song title or whatever, and so it's you can ascertain that, yeah, that's pretty important to you, and so
Oh yeah.
and every once in a while, like, yeah, there's songs that kind of nail it, and I'm like, yeah, man, that's a good one.
Love it. I love it. I know of like, I know some people will say like, what's that all about? And I'm like, I just got sick of just type in morning run. I just
Yeah,
got so,
yeah,
it
yeah.
was so old. And I'm like, I might just start putting song lyrics and it's either a song I've been listening to or, one that just hit my, and I was like, I'm going to put that on my playlist, and I have a billion playlists, dude. It's nuts. So, but
Yeah,
anyways, well, cool. Dude, let's jump into the running questions. Let's go at this. So thank you for everybody being patient with us. I mean, it's just fun. This is what running is all about. It's beautiful to talk to other people about other aspects of their life. I mean, obviously this is what this podcast is about. So we'll talk about running, but it's just fun to learn more about other people and all that jazz. So, the first question I kick off with every person I've had on is, when did running become what it is to you now? And as I've said so many times before, and I'll say again, is, it could have been when you were in your youth. It could have been when you're a teenager. It could be, in your adult life. Maybe it was a year or two ago. It's different for every person, but when did it kind of become what it is now? Because obviously, like, let's be honest, like you, and again, I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but you were really committed to Hardrock. And I know you'll talk about what exactly you did, but he didn't stay here in Utah. I'm going to leave it at that.
yeah.
But he was 100% committed to sending it at Hardrock. And I was paying attention. I was watching because I had an idea. I knew what he was doing. But it was just really, really impressive and strategically just spot on. And his results are definitely warranted. But yeah, when did running become what it is to you?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you did a really good job of, sending a potential outline for this and stuff like that. And I think the way you had it worded in there is, when did it become more than training? And I was trying to think of a way to not make it sound like am acting like, well, I've done this forever kind of thing. And I think the way to explain it, which we'll talk about more, I'm sure too, is most of the things I do, I tend to think of as like, what is like the full journey look like, and relationships with people or running or singing or working. I like playing the long game. So I like thinking about like, well, what is this? If I do this forever, like, what is it like? Am I digging deeper than I would if I just do it for a couple seasons or something? And running to me has really been, there's been some ebbs and flows, but as a passion, like it started when I was young. It started before. There are different moments, but it started like sprinting around with my friends, like my buddy and his dad was a gym teacher, so he had summers off. We'd be up at their cottage, and it was a downhill sprint, like out to the lake. This is lake country in northern Wisconsin. We'd go up to their cottage up north, you downhill sprint to the lake, hit the wooden dock, where the board's bent, and you're on like a trampoline. You're getting some spring off of that and hammering and sprinting and diving into the lake, and the freedom of the speed that a kid has. Like, I remember that. And I still have moments where I feel that. And I think every runner does. So I experienced that, and I knew that I was experiencing it very young. It's a feeling that I have tried to hold on to for a long time. And I took that into middle school and high school track. I was pretty fast. By the end of high school, I was kind of burned out. I didn't really want to run in college. I had a couple opportunities that I was just not, I don't know. I don't think I was mature enough to like understand that maybe I had value to that. That's how I maybe took a season or two off and then discovered trail running. And so then that discovery of trail running, which probably happened around 2004, because I had a really cool trail where I went to school in UW Milwaukee, and I really just found a lot of freedom there. I guess that would be my most recent recommitment to running, which is a long time ago now. It's 20 plus years ago, my college days. But it's something that I've just like cherished, and through highs and lows and deciding, do I want to train? Do I want to race? So yes, I do. No, I don't right now. But throughout it all, it's been a bit of a lifelong journey of just exploring what that movement means to me, you know, on foot.
That's super cool. And I get it. Like in a lot of ways, me and you're very similar in that way because I grew up and I was just more of like I was more of like a football, basketball, baseball type guy. And running was always there. And I remember like, and I've shared this on other episodes, but like we'd get punished in football or whatever, right? And they're like, okay, you got to go run and you got to go run. Like I remember one time, I think it was a 4 or 5 mile loop and everybody was like walking it. And dude, I was like the first guy back. And I remember being like, and our coaches were like, what are you doing? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like, you're back. Like you shouldn't be back this fast. And I was like, I just ran. And they're like, and I remember being like, they even said to me, they're like, you can try out for cross country. Why are you playing football? And I was like, well, thanks, jerks. Like, thanks for telling me I shouldn't be on the football team. But it was just so funny. Like there was so many times I think back in my youth, just like what you were saying, how there was just this love that I had for it. And it just like, it was amazing. And then it kind of just like, it would diminish and, you know, and then I had my knee surgeries because of football. And I was just like, running's not for me anymore. I'm never going to do it. And then, like you said, then about, 13, 14 years ago, I rediscover it and I've just never let go. And I'm like, I don't want to let go. Like, one, I don't want to go through learning how to get back into running shape because that's painful all by itself. But, but maybe maybe that is a beautiful thing to go through again. Cause I'm like, man, I haven't fallen out of marathon shape in a long time. And my muscles are reminding me of that all the time. So
Yeah. Well, there's something to be said about detraining and retraining, I think, for sure. But yeah, I think what's interesting is I think like what I'm describing about feeling like the joy and freedom of using your body to move and it is a bit universal. But I think what I realized when I was younger is that there are people that like, maybe it's not for them and they move on. Not, I mean, I'm talking about any movement though, like for
Sure.
like sport or joy or like just childlike athletic movement, right? Like you see people grow away from that, lose it, and almost maybe I don't know how you feel inside, but maybe like they just don't do it anymore, and you're like, did you forget about it? Do you not want to do that? Do you not have time? Do you think that every human grows out of that when you become an adult? Like that's just something you don't do anymore. Like that's kind of what I used to think when I was younger, I thought. And I remember when I was younger thinking like I'm committed not to growing out of the ability to move like a kid whenever I want to, and that has slowly like evolved into different things predominantly, which is running. But I grew up swimming and paddling and kayaking and biking and fishing and hunting and all these things that were really based in being able to move. And it's been, I guess to me, it's like, why? Yeah, I just want to like see if I can have that relationship my whole life, whatever that is, So if I live to 80, like I still want to be like getting out and birding and hiking and backpacking and running and like just exploring, because that connectedness that you get from it is pretty special, and it continues to be special.
Well, it's funny you say this. So 2 things. One, you said to me years ago, I remember the year was 2024. And then what you just said, barely, kind of both of these tie in. So there was one time, I don't even know if you remember this, but it was in 2024. I was training for Wasatch and I was running down from Ben Lomond and you were running up Ben Lomond.
Yeah.
And I remember being, and we saw each other. It was a Sunday morning, afternoon, whatever it was. And I remember we just started chatting, me and you were just like, and we talked about a lot of stuff. And again, hopefully I don't slaughter what you said, but I remember what I interpreted that you said to me is you're like, remember to enjoy this. Like, yes, 100-milers are difficult. Yes, 100-milers you got to be thinking and strategic and all this, but don't forget to enjoy this. Like, don't take this for granted. Like, yes, it's fun to go fast, but enjoy the moment. And really try to embrace being out there. And then, so you said that to me. And then what you said just barely as we started this off, you talked about empowerment. And I truly believe I never experienced empowerment in my whole life until I became a runner. I really don't think I ever experienced it. Like I always like, I don't know if it was like, sorry, and I'm supposed to be interviewing you, but like,
yeah,
but
great,
it's
man.
like what you said there really hit deep because I never ever felt like, man, I'm good enough or I can do this or like, I can accomplish crazy, insane things that, most people tell you, don't, what are you doing? Like, I mean, right? Like in our world, it's normal to run 100 milers and 50Ks and whatever. It's normal between you and me. We can talk about it. But you go talk to people on the street or someone in the community and they're like, you guys are nuts. Like, why would you even consider this? And I'm like, but you don't know what is brought to my life. And there's a song by Blink-182 that says, the title is called Can't Go Back. And like, it hits so deep with me because I'm like, I can't go back now to what I was. Like that past Ryan has sailed. Like I can't go back to who he is anymore because I found this new version of me that just like challenges himself, loves to push himself, loves to do stuff that like, yeah, there's a chance I'm gonna fail and I'm okay with that. And I think that's beautiful. And so anyways, where I'm going with all of this is like, I love that you brought up this empowerment thing. And like, I would love for you to share with us, like, what does that mean to you exactly? Because obviously it is like, you've been living this for a long time and maybe it's taken different forms, but yeah, what does that look like to you? And like, for our listeners, maybe someone on here right now is like, I don't feel like I'm good enough and I feel like a piece of crap and I can't accomplish anything in my life. And what would you share with someone like that? That's like, how do you become to that point where they're like Alex? I mean, I'm not trying to teach you or anything, but become this badass runner that can go and do some amazing things again without giving away what you did this year. So yeah,
Well,
dude, what would you say?
I think the funny thing is, and I think is in general, I think universally this is true for everybody, is like, those people that feel like they're like nothing and they don't deserve to show up to a start line or go to work, or like, they belittle themselves in their heads. Unfortunately, I think as a society, I think it's something that like we all battle with, and so I guess first and foremost is like, I feel that way often, all the
Yeah,
time.
we all do.
Like
Yeah.
I probably one of the reasons, again, one of the reasons I grew up singing, I think, remember middle school years were particularly darker for me. And I would hang out a lot of times in my room and have the little boombox, the CD player going, and I'd be singing, and to me, it was both a way to like escape, but it was also a way to like find something I was passionate about and just be kind of in that zone, and I think, so I guess first and foremost is like, I think many people deal with those feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt and just kind of beating themselves up. And I certainly do. And I, on a daily basis, kind of have to work with myself on those things often. But if there's something that I do okay or well, is that I dream. And I dream a lot, and I daydream, and I do all these things that when I was young, I got the feeling that adults maybe thought it wasn't worthwhile to do those things when you get older. But I committed to never stopping daydreaming and like thinking about cool things I wanted to do or who I wanted to be and things I wanted to work with myself and milestones and goals for myself. And I carve out, I guess if we talk about Hardrock, I carve out decent amounts of time to focus on those things, because I don't really know why, besides passion. Like it's we'll talk about the tangible things that I do or that you do or that other people do, but I really would encourage people to read and like read about adventures and read about things you're interested in. And if you're into walking or birding or ultra marathons or like climbing Mount Everest, like if you read about these things, or I guess consume content on social media these days, like you'll see that there are many examples of ordinary people doing crazy crap all the time. And it's super inspiring and it's wild, ultra running for me, like people say like, what race do you want to do? And most trail runners these days are kind of like, what? Why would you want to do it? It's Badwater for me. Like I remember reading Nat Geo articles in middle school or high school or something, and the shoes were so crappy back then that you had to run down the white line. If you weren't running on the white line on the side of the road at Badwater 135, which is 135 miles, like mostly on pavement, through the lowest place in the 48, hottest place in the lower 48, up to one of the tallest places in the lower 48, Mount Whitney, which it used to run to. It doesn't anymore. But point is that I was reading, about like, wow, like these guys' shoes are melting if they're not running on the white line. Like I want to do the race because of that, which is like, I don't know, all other statistics aside, I was like, I can't believe that these people are running in there and melting their shoes. Like that's something I want to try, So just to round it out is, I think whatever your inclination is of something that you has thought was cool, it's a build to maybe get to where you eventually want to go. But can you find the adventure in the everyday activities that might slowly start to build and take you to those dreams, you know? And along the way, you slot in these other things. Like a lot of people have the weekend run. For them, it might just be a long run leading to a marathon, but that might also be their weekend adventure. That's their excursion. That's their piece of wilderness. Like, no doubt you were doing that when I saw you coming down from Ben Lomond. Like, you have to train for Wasatch, but are you just out there doing it only because you have to train for Wasatch? Like, no. Even if you don't realize it, you probably signed up for Wasatch so that you would be committed to having these weekend adventures every weekend. That's the excuse that gets an adult out there having fun, challenging themselves and growing, you know? And for me, I've always been very good at finding excuses of things to train for so I can keep getting out there and having adventures, you know, stuff that fills my cup, right?
Mhm. That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, I don't know. Round it out is like, yeah, it's like these things of inadequacy. It's like, you know, keep battling those thoughts because you also know that you have this good version of you, this version of you that you believe in. So you have to learn, and I need to learn, and we all need to learn to keep, you know, realizing that those negative thoughts and voices are there, but learn how to cope with them, how to tell them, hey, it's time to be quiet now, you know. And if you can't do it yourself, like, go get some therapy. You know,
Yeah.
I go and chat with professionals on these things, you know, cyclically through my adult life, and they've helped me get through too. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, beautifully said. And I 100% agree with you. You know, we all deal with those personal demons and in whatever way it is, right? And I think that's kind of been one of the coolest things that I've come to know about ultra running is I've met so many people that ultra running is how they silence these demons, if you will, right? And it's how they attack them. And I wouldn't say one's more important than the other or more severe than other because just because someone deals with, you know, they're an alcoholic versus someone who just thinks that they're a piece of crap, how can I say that I know the severity of one versus another? It's impossible to really call that out. But I've met so many people that they're like, this is how I silence the demons. This is how I find the best version of myself. And I'm like, that's beautiful. Like, I love that this is how you do it. And so you said this so beautifully. And I think that's the key is finding your why. And like you said, in the end, like, it is an adventure. And I say to everybody, like, to me, getting up every morning and training, like, I love it. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I personally love getting up and going for my runs because one, it sets me straight for the day. Two, it's my morning coffee, if you will. It wakes me up. I can get going, and then I'm firing on all cylinders for that day. But it's also like I know it gets me ready for my races. But I always look at the races like that's kind of like the fun of it. The training was the part that was tough because you're doing it day in, day out. It helps me refocus. It helps me understand like what I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to accomplish. But also I just find so much joy in it. I love pushing myself. I like how it just makes me a different person. But again, doing the races, like, that's just the cherry on top. That's just the best part at the end. And so I don't know, for me, that's how I've always looked at it. But I just remember seeing you and you said that to me and I've never forgot it. I've like, after I saw you on Ben Lomond coming down and I was just like, dude, that was like, I needed to hear that because sometimes you get going and you're doing these runs in 90-degree temperatures and you're like, what am I doing with my life? Like, or you trip or something like that. You're like, I hate this. This isn't even fun. Like, then you're like, no, this is part of the journey. This is part of the adventure. So no, I appreciate you saying that. So let's do it, man. I want to jump to the fun part of that about this because I've been dying to ask you about Hardrock. So, ladies and gentlemen, Alex did Hardrock this year and he did really, really good with it. But before we jump into the actual race, I'd love for you to tell everybody a little bit more of what you did in preparation for it, because I think it just tells a different story about who you are and just how committed you are to just what you're trying to accomplish and what you're trying to be. I think it's impressive. I mean, again, it's all, I always say people are always watching, you know, people are always paying attention to what others are doing. And if you never think someone's watching, like, you're wrong. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. And so, you know, I'm always watching. I'm always trying to see what people are doing. And I'm like, dude, it was impressive. So yeah, dude, walk us through Hardrock. I'm so interested and excited about this.
Yeah. Well, thanks, man. It's an interesting thing because I don't know, like, the negative voice in my head is like, well, you're kind of extreme, dude. Like, you know, like, what you did there it's not extreme in some circles, you know? And so, but I guess the point of that is like, maybe there's a little teeny background on like what the Hardrock 100 is and maybe how people in our circles like interpret it, right? Like, so Hardrock is this 100-mile race in the San Juans in Colorado. It's very high elevation. The average elevation, you're just above 11,000 feet. It's got 33,000 feet of climbing, which is a lot. There are a bunch of other races that have that much, but that combined with the elevation, you get over 14,000 foot once. You do a 14er called Handy's Peak. It's a serious high altitude event. You can't just get into it unless you're the world's best. The race director gives himself 6 picks called Dale's Picks because that's his name. But you have to run these qualifiers for this thing. There's a ton of demand for this race. So the average wait time or the time it takes people to get in these days is somewhere between like 7 and 12 years. Like that's the average it takes. By the time you get into this thing, you're like a decade into being a different human, you know? Mm-hmm. Your cells are all replaced, right? That happens once every 7 years or something like that. But so it's this journey and it's this special event. Like you have these people winning this race. It's thought to be one of the toughest in the world. But even the champs, like they're not running the uphills. Like it's these massive climbs where there are poles out and you're climbing. And I'm a climber. I really enjoy climbing. I used to be a really fast climber. I'm now like an aging climber and, you kind of get into this race and you go, oh man, like at least for me, I was like this, I knew to some extent this race is built for me, you know? And the most positive voice in your head that's still rational. And this is like a thing to be concerned about is like, I always want to like be the best version of myself, but I always want to understand or be honest with myself. Like if I don't want to just be this person that's like, I'm going to like win that thing, but like, there's no chance in hell I would ever win that thing. Like but finding that balance of going like, man, this race is built for me. Like I can do top 10 here. Like, I think I could do top 5 here. So to lead into what you're saying, like, yeah, you get into the race in December, you know, if your name gets pulled in the lottery, you put in the lottery a couple months before that, the race is in early July. I knew I might get into the race. I had a pretty weird foot injury going on that was pretty serious. I hadn't, you know, before Hardrock, which was July 10th this year, I hadn't raced in a year and a half. And that's because in September, sometime after, like really it was November when I figured out what it was, November of 2024. Yeah. I realized like, man, I have this full tear in my plantar plate on the bottom of my foot. And every time I put it on the ground, like it's very serious. So the next, you know, it's a full it's a full year before I get into Hardrock, November 2025. But I'd already pre-planned this. Like I knew if Hardrock was for me and I could run it well, like I knew when I got in, I was going to do what the pros do, which is be out there for about 4 weeks. And that's to acclimatize to that elevation, right? There's 2 ways. There's 2 theories of thought on it. You go out a month ahead or you go out 2 days before and you just run it before like your body tanks or whatever, right? And for most races, I would just go out a couple days before because I'm not a pro athlete. Like, but for Hardrock, which is this bucket list event, you know, it's, I don't know if it's an apex of a person's career, but it might, you know, depending on the races you're looking towards, like it's up there. And so I think this is very important to my psyche and to people who want to do things. It wasn't a split decision to go to Hardrock a month before and live out there. It was a year's build of like, I knew if I was still a fit athlete and I had potential to do what Alex could do, what I could do for me, not like winning the race or whatever, that then I was going to let myself try to reach my potential. And part of trying to reach your potential at a high altitude race is being out there. And so, it's weird though, dude. Like this is where it gets weird is like, it touches everything. Like I have to have a job that'll let me be gone for a month. I have to have a spouse and a partner that will let me be gone for a month. And none of those things like happen overnight. Like I have always built those things to be able to do that type of lifestyle if I wanted to. Maybe in the hopes when I was younger of like, oh, maybe I'll be a pro athlete and then people just let me do that and I'll get paid to do that. But in lieu of that happening as a sub-elite or whatever you want to call it, I go, all right, well, I still have to be able to try and do these things that the pros do. So I have to have a job that lets me do that. Like I have to like build confidence in my boss to allow them to let me do that, whatever job I'm working at the time. I have to like show my spouse that I'm committed enough to this, that like, it's not just me taking a little vacation for myself. So anyways, build for Hardrock. I brought a coach on board. It was amazing. that was cool. Things went well through the training cycle. And that led into me, moving through these pieces of the master plan that included buying a little travel trailer, a little pop-up hard-sided travel trailer, and loading that up with my little Tacoma and pulling that out to Silverton, Colorado on like June 8th of this year. And so I was out there for the month, training, exploring, having a ball, but really putting the final pieces together for this race. And that includes something that a lot of runners these days called soft rock. Soft rock is basically a fast pack or backpack version of the Hardrock course. So you take 3 or 4 days to explore, 18 to 30 mile sections of the course at a time. It's 4 big efforts, or 5, depending on how many days you do it in a row. But before you start to bring your training back down for a taper, you see the whole course. You really understand it. It's the first time I had ever seen a full 100-mile course before running it. I've run like Superior 100 twice. So you go back, you do better the second time. You understand how that works, right? Like, because you've done this with Wasatch, but to see the course in its totality before the first time you go out and race it was like unbelievably huge. So yeah, it was an interesting and a bit of a special year for me that I was able to just cash in some ultra running karma and spend a month out in this high altitude place before running the race.
That's awesome. One thing I want to touch on, but just because you elaborated on it, and I'll go a little bit further with it, is you talked about having it all come together. And even if it is a local race, local 100, right? These races take a lot. Like you said, you have to have a spouse, a partner. If you have kids like I do, kids that are understanding of why you want to do this, it takes a crew, right? It always takes a crew. So you have these pacers, you have this crew chief, you have these people that are helping you along the way as well. And again, you're coordinating with them, you're working with them. You're like, listen, this is how I want to accomplish this race. So there's all this work that goes into it. And I love that you're like, dude, and then like there's your job too, right? Like, especially with your like, this is kind of your pinnacle, if you will. Maybe not. I mean, I still think you're going to do some crazy stuff before it's all said and done. But like, it still is a big ask. And so, for you to go out there and like you said, you were out there for a month before and you're training, there's a lot that has to kind of come together to make this all work. And it was just really cool to see that. And I remember just thinking like, if he's out there, it's all come together. He's making it all work. And, and it is a lot. It's a lot. And kind of in a lot of ways, our spouses, our partners are kind of those unsung heroes that they're so chill. They're willing to work with you on it. And my wife understands it just, like yours, is that she's like, I know you love this and you're passionate about it. And, I want to help you achieve your dreams. And likewise, I do the same with her for her dreams that she has. But it's crazy. It's just the amount of stuff that goes into this. The other thing I want to touch on that I find so fascinating is I remember when you were in your boot, and I remember you being like, yeah, and you're like, yeah, I've got some issues going on. And I'm like, oh, dude, are you kidding? Like, I know you're so fast. And like, I can only imagine how much of a struggle this is for you. Like one question I'll just throw at you before we go further with Hardrock is, how did you cope with that? Because for someone at your level, right? And again, I know you're probably like, well, I'm sub-elite. I think you're elite, but I get what you're trying to say. And then you're trying to be somewhat humble, and that's awesome of you. But like, how did you cope with that? Because I think that can be sometimes a little bit difficult to be like, I know what I'm capable of. And now, because again, injuries, as you know, this is just par for the course, and it doesn't get any better if you're listening to this. If you're like, I haven't had an injury ever, or I've only had 1 or 2, Father Time's undefeated. So be ready. More is coming. So, but yeah, how did you cope with that, man?
Yeah, there is a little special thing that I have that it's weird. Like, there's a lot of times, this is a negative thing actually about me. There's a lot of times when everything's going right and it feels like boring to me, I guess. And then my negative voice is really loud. And like, there's nothing, like if everything is just going smooth and it's going right, like there's nothing for me to work for really or towards. And a lot of times those times are really tough for me. And that actually parlays into like why it was so helpful for me to have a running coach this year. We'll talk about that later if you want. But in times of adversity, when there's like something to solve, my mind is particularly engaged. And so I did have some trying times. I did struggle with what like maybe my identity as a runner would become with this injury. But I was also really motivated to find a way through, to work
Mhm.
with what was happening. And I have been fortunate enough to learn many times over just from injuries I've had or from watching other people get injured or for watching the older generation that somehow begins or not begins, somehow continues to be active. This little secret that I think makes a lot of difference. And it's just like, it's the difference between thinking that you are going to have an injury and heal from it and be the person you were before to the real understanding that like injuries, real ones, they stick with you for life. They become a part of your personality. And the only way through is to work with it. And
Mm.
so for a while, it was pretty depressing just to figure out what the injury was because it's a tear in the pad on your foot, and it's right where that front kind of ball of your foot bones touch down. It's super painful. It can lead to this thing where your toe floats up and stays like this hammer toe, for life. And I saw 3 surgeons and they all said the same thing, like, well, we need to get in there and we need to like do a decent little piece of surgery in there. And while we're at it, we got to do some other things with what your toe's doing because you got bunion stuff going on. So we need to break that. We need to do some cuts there. And they all said the same thing. And I totally believe in surgery, and I have had it on my hand, and maybe knock on wood, I might have some surgeries again in the future. But so it was tough figuring out what it was, and it was tough initially going and talking to doctors and having them tell you what the solution is from their point of view. But like that's it. Like they weren't like listening to me. They weren't really considering what I do athletically for a living. Like it was just like, you got that? Well, then we give you this, and it seemed extreme. I'm a pretty extreme guy, but it seemed extreme. It seemed like, man, you're going to go in there and slice and dice some stuff, and I'm going to be like off my foot for a long time. And you start researching, and you're like, man, like, well, so how do 100-mile runners, ultra runners, like, how do they perform after they have the surgery? And it's like, I don't know. We like mainly do this on like 65-year-olds, but like they go back to like, I don't know, some of them like play pickleball again and some of them like go on walks again. So like it seems to work out. So that was really tough. Like this period of trying to identify what was going on and how to make the right decision on what to do. But I guess it comes back to like, I ended up like not making a gut reaction. I ended up finding a bit of a community, like reading online, like runners that have experienced this. Like I ended up talking to this amazing dude that's right here in South Ogden. His name's Ben. He has a company called Perfect Feet. He makes custom insoles. He makes
Nice.
like, I think all the insoles for the MLS team, the Real in Salt Lake City. He does a lot for the Jazz. He makes these insoles for NFL players all around the country. But when I met this guy, he was the first guy that like was listening to like what I do and what I want to continue to do and began to come up with a plan for me to try some things to try and work with my foot. Right. And so anyways, I had some dark moments in there, but I had to find some people that I could just like express what was going on and see if there was some solution that would allow me to be the person I still wanted to be. And I found that in Ben at Perfect Feet, and huge shout out to him. And I'm saying that because he's been making custom insoles for me. Like I don't have any sponsors, but you'll find my picture on the wall at Ben's place because he does work with athletes that have these dreams and goals and helps find these one-on-one ways to kind of like keep moving them forward. And so he makes these insoles for me that really, really changed things for me and made me realize, you know what? It's not maybe just a one-way path through this thing that's going to really not just take me out of racing for the year and a half that I was in. Like it was going to like just take me out of activity for 6 months to a year, and maybe it wouldn't have been that long, but it was like, it was serious. And I found a path forward of I'm not running as much. I focused on mountain biking heavy for the next year. I ride every Sunday with a good group of friends. So to answer is like, find some community and then also like pivot, like realize that like, do I run? Like, is my passion just to like put one foot in front of the other, like out there and then do races? It's not really like what is the core of why I do what I do. And that is, I love movement. I love getting outside in nature, immersing myself, seeing these wild moments. And is there a way I can still do that? And I can still heal at the same time and maybe come back to doing what I love. So there definitely were some moments in there. If my wife was watching, she'd be like, yeah, he was pretty good with it, but man, he was a dick some of the time too, because like he couldn't figure out what to do with himself. So those moments were there, but but I guess pivoting, like reflecting on what it is you do this for. And also, like when you look at ultras, these challenging experiences, what you go through with an injury is kind of the same journey. You know, it's like you're going to do a 100-miler to be successful, to strive, to push yourself, and to push yourself through these moments of doubt. You know, and an injury is just a much more real world version of that. You know, and if you work with it that way, you know, the injury actually might be the whole thing for me. It might be the success story that I had at Hardrock. Like it's a real world. It put in jeopardy not just finishing a race. It put in jeopardy these goals for longevity and movement, say through hiking a long trail at 65 or 70 that I have in my mind, things I want to continue to do. Put all that at stake of like, you might not do that, dude.
Mm-hmm.
So sit back and study and do your best to find a way to do it, because that could really be what's at stake, not just not finishing a race. And so I did kind of work my way through that. And I don't know, it's tough. I don't have the answers, but like rely on your friends, your family. Don't make a gut decision if it's maybe a surgery, and surgery might be the right option. It even might be the right option for a guy like me in the future still, but it wasn't then. And it just takes a bit of patience and self-reflecting and realizing that those moments are part of your own individual journey. And I'll feel that in my foot. The scar tissue's in there. I feel it every day. But it's actually a bit. I'm not proud of injuring myself, but I'm proud of working through it. And these are like I don't have any tattoos, but I have like a couple different tears in different parts of my body, you know, and I have a broken collarbone, and like they all carry stories and healing and stuff with them. And like, those are my tattoos, you know, and if I can find a way to move forward successfully in racing with those things, to me, it just proves that like I understand myself in the way that I pride myself on, which is intimately, you know, how do you get from point A to point B with you individually? You know, it's different than how you do it, Ryan, you know, like
Yeah.
it's both do it differently. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love it. And that's, the reason why I asked that question is, everybody does do it differently, but I love that you give examples. And, as I'm sitting here listening to you, I love one, you went to work. You went to work studying this. You were deep diving in this. You're probably looking online, you're reading Reddit stuff, you're asking friends, you're talking to people, you're going to clinics. I love that. I love that you're like, dude, I really started doing the research. I went to work. I wanted to find out what's going on. Two, you relied on your community. You relied on the people that you trust, and you're talking to your wife. I'm sure you're getting out. You're like, you know what? I can't run, but I'm gonna bike. I'm gonna find a way through this. I'm gonna do this. I remember thinking sometimes, a little side tangent, I remember thinking sometimes, I don't think his foot's sealed up. I think he's still in his boot and he's out riding bikes. I could be completely wrong by that, but I remember thinking, I swear I saw him in his boot just barely. But anyways, I thought it was awesome.
Well,
I'm like,
the
you know
thing
what?
for me, the thing for me, just to anecdote that, right, is like it took understanding what I had to do, you know? So like those things, it's all individual. Those things could seem reckless or weird to somebody, but like for me, it was like I had to not flex that joint, like that final bone there on the ball of your foot before it goes into your toe. I had to isolate that because that tendon was torn, right? So once you figure out that you can get like a carbon plate in your shoe, and ideally you should be wearing a boot during the day, so you're not flexing any of that. But like, man, I could move the mounting point of my shoe on my bike, and I could move it back so that I wasn't flexing over it. And then I could put a carbon plate in the shoe that limited the flexion there, right? And then because if I clip into bike pedals, you have circular motion because you can pull up too when you're clicked in. You can go, all right, I'm committing to not push down as hard with this foot either, but I can still do this and I can still have the cardio going on, right? Or what would have been the next move was like, I'm going to spend more time in the pool and do more swimming. And that was a goal of mine that I kind of skipped. I don't know why. It's like hard to get to the pool, but I guess the point is it is very personal to you. And I think there was one way to do it. There was get surgery, get in a boot, and just wait for the body inactively to like heal itself. Or there was like, all right, well, like, are there like these other they're harder to accommodate, but it's like, oh yeah, can I still ride the bike and not flex that thing? Like, can I do that? Can I not put pressure on it? And I can, like, I don't know. I had a cousin who always would say this when he got older. It always annoyed the heck out of me. It's like, how'd you do that, man? And then he'd be like, very carefully. You almost put it in quotation marks. And I'm like, that's the stupidest answer I ever heard. Like, very carefully,
Yeah.
But basically, I was finding ways to very carefully continue my cardiac output, right?
Yeah.
Which was part of the game because I was like, I want blood flow to get down there and heal this tendon. Like, you don't
Yeah.
really get blood flow to tendons, but crossing my fingers that I'm doing the best job I can to get blood there, And so, yeah,
Yeah. That's awesome.
total
Well,
side
it's
note.
just
Sorry about that.
yeah, no, I love it. I love it. And it's cool to see that you went to work. You didn't just like, well, and I get it. We all, and there's so many factors that go into, when we go through hard times, but you touch on something that I really love because you said it perfectly. And we're going to get into Hardrock, but I can't tell you how many times I've had the exact same experience that you're talking about with Wasatch, with Bear, with Buffalo, with Scout Mountain. It's all happened, I'm out there, something bad starts to happen, whatever it is, kidney stones, heat exhaustion, wasp stings, you name it. We all have, and the things that have happened
Kidney
to me on
stones are
race,
intense.
yeah, but yeah, but right, every one of us has our own things, these battles that we have, right? Like I've had guests on who've had hemorrhoids, right? I mean, as gross as that is, like,
Yeah, yeah.
and then I have other ones that are dealing with whatever, right? We have all of these things, and so everybody has their thing. But you have two choices. You can either give up and just be like, I'm done. And again, it's not life or death, really. And at times you got to be careful. You got to do the smart thing and whatnot. Or you go to work and you say, okay, like I'm gonna troubleshoot this. We're gonna queue it. We're gonna go through and we're gonna figure out how to not only finish this race, but still do a pretty good job at it and just get through. And sometimes the best you can do is just say, I'm gonna survive for 100 miles and just get across that finish line. And heaven knows I've had more of those than not, but it's part of the deal. And so, anyways, without further ado, take us through Hardrock, man. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I was watching the live stream. I was always looking for you. It was very comical watching the live stream because you had a lot of people who had no idea what ultra running is about. And so many people, one thing I just had to share is I still remember Tara Dower climbing one of the mountains. She was right by you. I know she was racing, not necessarily racing you, but you guys were right by each other. They're
Yeah,
in the
we were
top
by each other
50.
for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, top 15. And I remember she was climbing, I forget what mile it was, but she was climbing a really tough part. And I know you were ahead of her at this time. And people were on there like, yep, her race is over. It's game over for her. And I'm sitting here laughing because I'm like, none of you know what this is like. This is a steep climb that she's got. And she was a little wobbly, but she gets up there, hits the climb, and then she just books it down. And I'm like, see, all of you people don't even know what you're talking about. Like,
yeah.
there's
Well, I
always going to
think
be
that's
hard times. Well, wait, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think that was what makes it fun for people to watch, is like it is a bit weird what's going on out there. And if you haven't been through it, like, yeah, it's hard to understand it. You're calling it just like a football game. You're like, yeah, dude's washed up, or like dude's gonna come back or whatever. And so I guess it's part of the entertainment of it, and
Yep.
but it's fun to see for sure. And like Tara's a beast, and she had run Western States 2 weeks before. So
Yeah.
she was in no way like 100% ready to rock. So she's out there just grinding out a challenge at that's a level above what I was doing. Like I was out there pampering myself for a month and getting ready for the area. And she was out getting ready and stuff too, but she had just raced 2 weeks earlier, this crazy race. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting, man. Everybody, what's cool about ultra running is it's like a team sport, and yet it's very individual. Everybody's running their own individual challenges, and Hardrock was a cool day for me. And it's funny. You start off in this little town, Silverton, and the race is on the 10th. I was there, July 4th. You're out there, and they have a parade, and they invite all the Hardrock runners to march in the parade, and I was out holding the Hardrock banner and walking down the street with the guy that ended up winning it for the third time, Ludovic Pomeray, who's like this beast of a runner. He's unbelievable.
Yep.
So like it's this weird little community event, and some of the world's best are there, but everybody that's there, what's special about Hardrock is everybody that's there is inspirational. Everybody at Hardrock is tried, true, and tested inspirational because it takes 7 to 12 years to get into this race. They've all done these Hardrock qualifiers, the same ones that you're doing, Ryan, they've all done them many times. And so that is more important later on in my story because it's part of what kept me going. But yeah, we start the race Friday morning. It's pretty cool. There's a lot of fanfare next to you, but all things considered, 147 runners or something like that start the race. It's not like it's this crazy, like high energy thing. You're out there early morning. The race starts at 6 a.m. You're on this dusty street, concerned about the smoke because there were wildfires in the
Yeah.
area, a couple big ones, and you're playing out the course in your head. And for me, I knew it was very important to not run too fast. And historically, I run too fast. I'm pretty decent at 50-mile races because I can just go out fast. I can die at mile 42 like hard, and I can hold on to the end. It doesn't work that way for me in 100s. And so I knew, if it might take me years to get into this race again, I knew one of the keys to success was going to be to go out at a sustainable pace for me. So race starts and you talk with some friends and you're running down the street and people are cheering you on. And it doesn't seem like you climb up this little hill out of town towards I don't know why I'm holding a pen, but I'm holding a pen. Climb up this little teeny hill and they got a statue of Jesus up there. It's like the same statue that they have in Rio, like that big one.
Yep.
I can't remember what they call it.
But
But anyways, you're running up towards this statue and in any it's like the grade of starting the Ben Lomond Trail, and you would start that thing running,
Yep.
but at 10,000 feet, you're everybody's hiking it, so right out of the gate, you're hiking. You get up to flat, cross a river, and one of the things I did to slow myself down, I started with 2 bottles of water. It was 11 miles to the first water station, but I had a little filter on me in a bottle too. And I thought, man, at this first big river cross, I'm going to stop and I'm going to I need 3 bottles, but I'm not going to leave with 3. I'm going to filter my water there. Everybody's going to be racing. I'm going to do that. So I was doing these little things to say, hey, just chill, just do your thing. If you have any energy on the back end of the race, that might be when things are fun for you. But even though you're doing that, you're trying to slow down a fast horse or something, you still are kind of pushing too. So you're sweating and stuff and racing. And it was just fun. Came into the first aid station. There's, I think I was 10th then. And what's weird about this race is there's enough fanfare that there's people out there with cameras and they're live streaming it. And you hear a noise and you're like, oh, that's a drone hanging out up here, they're doing, don't take a pee now. You can hear the drone thing. You don't want to do that. And so that was fun to experience, but just staying calm and climbing. But Hardrock's weird. There's 5 or 6 just huge climbs, and that's what the race is composed of. It's climb for 8 to 10 miles, descend hard, climb, steep descent that's scary, and do it again and do it again. So things went well, and you go up and you do this really awesome climb. You see this lake with an island in the background. There's a lot of cool pictures of it. It's called Island Lake, and you descend off of this pass that's just scree and steep. And you see this footage a lot with the race too. And it's the first time you do it, even raced, you hesitate and you go man, I could break a leg on this thing, or I could slice myself up. And then because it's on race day, there's people that have hiked up to it and they're cheering you on, but inside your head too, you're man, they're looking for carnage too, man. They're probably they're wanting the excitement of seeing these people slide down these rocky scree things, and you get a little lower on it. The first part, there's no rocks covering it. It's just sheer dirt that's too steep to hold the boulders anymore. And it's scary. So you're kind of got your poles out and just trying not to roll down and make a mockery of yourself. And people are yeah, dude, they're cheering at you and stuff. And then you hit these scree boulders and stuff, and you got these Hoka shoes on, right? You got these wide shoes, and if you play around it, you're stepping into it it's moon rocks, and you're surfing these rocks down. It's just cool. It's pretty extreme. Special for me, you come into that next aid station. We're I guess we're 2 aid stations in now. You come to Chapman, which is after the descent of the first big climb, and I'm still hanging. So there's cameras and stuff. But my coach Andy was there. My coach Andy Reid he's out of Canmore. Up outside of Toronto, he's in Canada, in the Banff range, essentially.
Yeah.
And so he was crewing me early on at a couple places that I didn't have Nicole drive to. So he's cheering me on, and he was just out there by happenstance because he'd run Western 2 weeks ago, and he had another athlete, coach David Ayala, who ended up taking 3rd overall. So he was out. He was able to kind of crew 2 people, so it just made sense for him to be there. So that was special for me. A lot of times you run through those aid stations, or at least I do. And I'll have Nicole meet me at just a few of the majors, and then you just run through and you self-support. But already from the beginning, it was special. So running to Chapman, he kind of pumps me up. He's he's feeling good too. He's feeling like, man, this guy's like in the top 10. This is really fun. Keep it calm, keep it collected, push on, go climb this next crazy climb. Sun's hot, but there's some cloud cover, which is like almost like a little karmically, like you feel like, yes, somebody likes us today because they're putting clouds in the air, And so thank whatever creator and maker that you thank. Climb another huge climb where you get over 13,000 feet, descend into Telluride. And that's the first time I got to see my wife. Telluride's about 28 miles into the race. And that's a fun moment. So Andy and her had gotten together at that point, and they both crewed me there. And I ran in, and you get some smiles and you get some refreshments, ate a piece of watermelon at that point. I was still hanging in 10th place, and push out of there fairly quickly, and you think you're a fast runner. So you like jog out of it, and then it goes uphill again immediately. Like even in the town of Telluride, you're hiking on concrete yet, but you're like hiking, because now leaving Telluride, you're going to Kroger's Canteen, which is like this, it's the highest aid station in North America is what it is. It's over 13,000 feet. These volunteers, they hike everything in, like up these super steep passes to get up to this little niche, this little notch in the mountaintop. And you're almost sliding backwards down scree with your poles up to get up there. And again, people are cheering you on. And I guarantee that there are runners that are sliding backwards in that moment, So you get up there, and they shouldn't be there. Like this is what's special about Hardrock is like a normal race director, which I am. You would just go like, no, there's an aid station before it and after it. There's not an aid station up there. It's dangerous to have volunteers up there. Like, it's like there's lightning strikes and stuff, but somehow Hardrock is like, no, we want to mess with people, both volunteers and runners. And we want to have them at like this super tall point. And they pack in these pierogies, that's their special food at this aid station. So you get up there and have a special moment, and the volunteers are just outstanding. Like they're just like, they're treating you like you're doing something really special, and that you're accomplishing something, which all good station volunteers do. Kroger's is wild. The backside of that is the same thing. It's like straight down, and like you just like kind of see where like, man, if I fell there, I could really look like an idiot, or I could really hurt myself, And so more so than any race I've run are these moments of like, gosh, like really I could hurt myself there, which isn't like, it's not a bravado bragging thing. It's like this race it has real challenges to it, and that's the fun of it. It makes you go, I got to check myself here. This isn't an ego thing. You can't just bash off the top of this thing and survive it. You got to be careful. You got to be like tactile, and you got to take your time, and it's fun that nature can do that to you sometimes. And it's really fun to have that in a race. So I went down that thing, and you're running, and I made it, and it was good. And you get this big, long double track road section that a lot of ATVs are on, past another aid station and down into Ouray. And Ouray is like 40 something miles in. And it's a point for me that even pre-race I had known would be like, I was like, man, long, kind of not super steep, but miles of like road where you could go really hard. It was also starting hot during the day. I knew like that could be a problem for me. Like I need to focus on fueling. I need to focus on like efficiency, but not like all out race speed. I need to come in Ouray feeling calm, collected, full of fuel, ready to carry on, because now you're transitioning to the back half of the race, right? And this is in the game plan before the race, but the race is different. And I'm coming down the road, and I'm not going super fast. I'm calm and collected because I have my little plan, but I'm also going like, man, my stomach doesn't really want to take much food or nutrition in. Like I knew that. And I hit the next aid station, which is before Ouray. It's along this road. And the first time it's not the first time, but I sat down for a second and on a chair, and I thought, all right, I'm going to have some watermelon here. And I had this whole plan for nutrition and how many salt pills I was going to take and all this jazz. But it's the moment, and I think every runner has this, where like that plan changes. And for me, when the plan changes, it's usually my stomach doesn't want food. And I was like, all right, I'll eat a little bit of watermelon, and then I'll roll. Body's still feeling great though. So I was feeling really good. Run down into Ouray. I'm coming into the smoke. This fire is kind of in this area here. Later, I found out like the smoke was really bad early in the day before any runners were there. But now it was like, if you know AQI, if you live in the West, it was like, I don't know, 120, 130. you can run in it, but it's not like great, it's unhealthy for sensitive groups is what they say
Sure.
on the apps.
Yeah.
Coming to Ouray. Ouray's a big major aid station. There's a guy on a camera following you in. I want to say anything to your mom. And I was like, not really. I was starting to come into this zone that was like a bit of the pain cave. And actually, right before I hit the biker on a bike, I went through a little tunnel, a little cave. Technically, it wasn't a cave because it was a tunnel. It was open on the other end, and it's like way close to your head. And I had my hand up here. It was like dark in there, but it's like 120 feet long. It's not like take out a headlamp dark, but it's
Yeah.
dark. So it's like, man, don't hit your head on the top. I'm scraping I have like a rooster hat on. I'm scraping my fingers across the top, make sure I'm not hitting the head. About 10 feet from the edge, I'm like, I'm clear, man. Did that. Take like 3 more steps. Crack, like slam my head as soon as
No.
into the top, fall to the ground, like just like not out of like passing out of like, man, I got to like absorb the shock, right? Like, so I hit it. I went right down to the ground and I started swearing to myself, which I don't, growing up in Wisconsin, I just do a lot of swear words. I'm swearing at myself and I know it, like I cracked my head pretty good to take my hat off. There's blood on the top of it. Like I cut my head open, This was just before, like a mile outside of Ouray. I get up and so this is how I'm going into the aid station. I'm going in, not able to take on fuel, pissed off at myself that I knowingly protected my head from the tunnel. I quit 10 feet early and then slammed my head into it. And for some reason, I karmically have a habit of slamming my head into things. So I'm going in my aid station a little pissed off and not feeling so good. I get in there, this energy I was talking about that was so exciting. My coach being at the aid stations when it's usually just Nicole and he's like all impressed, like, yeah, you're doing good, man. Calm, collected. He's slipping bottles in, dude. I feel like, oh man, this is like, I'm like a professional here where you see those guys going through and transitioning and gals. And I go in there and I'm telling myself, like, you got to sit down for a while, man. Like something's going to go wrong here if you don't cool off for a second. Like you need to find a way to eat food again. But I go in there and it's the same energy I'd had at all the other aid stations. I'm in 9th place, I think now. And everybody's stoked up, and everybody's doing a great job and everybody did a great job. What I didn't do a great job here was of communication, but I'm going to say things from a point of view that make it be like, man, these guys were really pushy on this guy. I go into the aid station and everybody's stoked and let's get some bottles. And there's aid station people kind of attending too. Cause the herd is thin there. So they don't have as much to do. And I remember I'm going like, man, I gotta like, I feel good, but like I'm getting hot and I'm not eating really well here, and Andy's putting bottles in and the aid station purpose and like, what you need. And I don't know if this is true for you, Ryan, but when you get into 100 and these volunteers, they do a really good job. They're very attentive. But like for me, like my mind slows down and people come, they're like, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? And I'm like, well, nothing right now. I just need like a minute to
think, yeah,
figure it out. Well, what can I get you? Do you need some water? Do you need some broth? And I'm like, I don't know what I need. I just need to like chill, It's almost like, hey, like slow down. And maybe this doesn't happen to everybody, but maybe because I'm riding in this sub-elite, like they want to find a way to push you out. And I'm kind of in the zone where I'm like, I got to chill for a second. I'm feeling like unstable here. And Andy was doing it and Nicole was like doing a great job and they're all doing a great job. And what I wasn't doing was going like, hey, calm down, guys. I need like 5 minutes here, And the whole story I'll get into next is like, had I taken 20 minutes at this aid station, maybe would have saved me 5 to 6 hours later down the line in my time and the suffering I ran into. But things were going really well. Sitting at 9th place. There's another guy in the aid station, a legend, Jeff Rome, who's a great runner, finishes very high. He lives in Silverton. He does really well at this race. And he'd been in the aid station a long time. I been in there for a half an hour. My coach said, the energy's high, man. Get out of here, man. Like, boom, you grab another place. Like things are going well. And I go, yeah, that seems right. Even though like, it seems like I'm about to enter the pain cave. So I leave. It's the warmest place on the course. You're at the lowest point on the course. You're at like 8,600 feet, maybe a little lower, somewhere around there. It's like in the upper 80s. Up 80s are like hot in that weather. It's smoky. Sure. You're breathing that in. You're smelling it. And you climb out Engineer Pass. You climb like 5,000 feet in like, I don't know what it is, 6.5 miles, 7 miles, something like that. It's, it's doable when you consider the stuff you run, Malins and stuff, but like it's long, and you're 40 miles in. So I climb out and you get up to this piece of town. It's really cool. It's a $1 million highway. It's like the craziest road you're ever on. It's like, it seems like It's crazy that more people don't die on this road because it's unbelievably scary. Big drop offs and stuff. Well, you cross it. There's a tunnel that the cars go under, and you go over this land bridge across this thing. Right there, there's a parking lot. And Jeff Rome, who was in the aid station behind me, he left after I did like 30 seconds and he passed me right away. And I was like, well, he's not dropping out. But I get to this little land bridge thing, and him and this other runner, Dylan Bowman, who's an awesome guy, awesome runner, they're both dropping out there. They're dry. Dylan's dry heaving. He looks at me as I come up and he goes, good on you, man. Like, you're passing 2 runners now. You got some dead man walking here. And he's like, he's dry. He's right in the, like, these dry heaves, you know? And that kind of stoked me up more. I was like, dang, man, I'm sitting in like 8th place now, you know, things are looking good. And I'm just starting this big climb I was telling you about. It was like 200 to 400 yards after that like I puked for the first time. And again, I'm in the heat of the day. The mountain I'm climbing, like it faces west. So the sun's over here now. It's afternoon. Yep. It's all exposed shale. It's just hot. It's blown out. I haven't been taking liquids in, and I start puking. And it's like uncontrollable. I don't know if you ever had that before, but and puking sucks, man. Like I used to be the type of guy that's like scared of puking, not scared of that much, but like I like to avoid puking if I can. And it's one of those things.
Especially on a race, like it just because you're already hurting everywhere, and the last thing you want to do is have your stomach hurt more. I get you, dude. I'm with you. So
it's tough,
last
man.
thing I want to do.
It's tough, and I'm at this weird little point. And I just passed 2 people that were dropping out, and I'm puking heavy, and like you get almost everything out right away. Take some more steps. Like, you know, like you go to this thing where you're like, and your stomach is like, you know, like it's just knotted, like it's just there. And you're just like trying to get something out, but nothing's coming. Like my whole abs and chest is locked up. And then like it would go away. I'd be like, all right, let's take a couple steps, you know? And like, it was a combo of like, nothing in your body, and then at a hot time of day, no liquids in your body anymore. I'd take like a minute or 10 seconds or 30 seconds worth of walking. You could feel my core temperature going up, and then it would trigger when it got up, like dry heaves with nothing that could come, you know? But the problem is that any liquid or anything I would put in, even if it was like, it got so bad that even if it was like a 1/4 ounce, like a little bit, I'd swallow it, and then that would trigger the same thing. So it was weird, man. And I'd just seen these other 2 people drop, and immediately, you know, as a weak person or in your weak times, you go like, this ain't gonna work, man. Like I messed up big time, you know, and I thought I did all right. I thought I took it easy, but now here I am, like, and these professionals, man, like they just dropped out. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, I'm not even.
Yeah, it messes with you.
I'm not even quite halfway into the race. It really is kind of the halfway crux, but technically you're pre 51 miles yet at that point. And you're going like, big boys are dropping out, and here you are, like you didn't figure it out, and now you got to find a way forward. Couple of little funny things though. It's the first 100 miler I ever didn't take my phone on, and that was intentional. I usually maybe listen to a little music at some point or something like that. That is one of the rare places on the course where there was service. If I had my phone on me, I might have called Nicole and said, hey, this ain't gonna work. Like I got a lot of race left, super hot out. You know, it turned from puking in the beginning. I ran into Pam Reed after that. She's like an ultra running legend. She was volunteering, like taking numbers down of people on course. And I laid down just after I passed her. I talked to her for a while. I said, I don't think like I can do this, you know? And I just feel so crappy right now. Like, I don't know. Like your mind starts rationalizing. You start going like, well, what's the difference between suffering and like really hurting yourself, dude? You know? And in your body, your mind wants to tell you, like your weak mind wants to go like, you're hurting yourself, dude. Like, and that's all you have to tell people. That's all you have to say is like, hey, it's not worth a real injury or time in the hospital or whatever. So like, that's why I pulled the plug, you know? And if you ever pulled the plug, you may have given yourself those outs before. It's pretty common. I think those thoughts all the time. So I remember telling Pam about that or whatever. And I was like, man, these other guys just dropped out. And she's kind of this older gal that's a beast. And, but she's also very blunt, you know? And I was like, yeah. And then these guys, you know, a mile back, like they're dropping out. Like, man, it's like trying to get like permission or consent, like
Yeah.
to like that my thoughts were right, and I didn't say I was going to drop out. I was just saying like, this all sucks out here. Like I'm messed up and these guys are dropping out and this is really tough, And she's like, well, you don't think about their shit, She goes, you don't think about that crap. Like, think about what you're doing. Like, take some time off and like figure it out, And there's this kind of,
I
maybe
love
they
that.
say this at other ultras. There's a special thing that I heard a bunch of times. I'm maybe 40 minutes into suffering now. And what had happened, just to put it in perspective, is you go from like kind of eating up miles at a reasonable pace at Hardrock, which can be anywhere from, 8-minute miles on downhills to 20-minute miles on the uphills. And that's like, could be
Sure.
relatively fast on the steeps.
Totally. Yeah.
And, but now I'm moving like over the next 4.5 miles to get to the engineer. It took me over 4 hours. Like I'm moving really slow, man.
Sure.
I'm doing an hour a mile sometimes because it's just stop, puke, like lay down, like try to figure things out, like go, okay, I can't have any water in because it instantly makes me puke. But then an hour and a half later, you're a mile and a half further and there's a clear, cold stream and you're so overheated and you go, well, let me try water now, get my filter out, like boom, like I'm just going to have like 2 ounces, but I drink like 8 ounces because it's super cold, take 2 steps after that and boom, puke that all up. And now I'm like in a whole nother battle where it's another hour for another mile and I'm just inching along and laying on the ground. And people are coming by me, some that I know, some that I don't. And they're all saying, you got 48 hours for this thing, man. Like you got all the time in the world,
Yeah.
And the rational part of you going like, yeah, that's true. And then the egotistical part of you is going like, well, yeah, but like, I don't want to do this thing in 48 hours. Like I know that Ryan knows that I spent all this time out here and he's watching me. And like, they're expecting me to do something and I'm expecting me to do something. And now here I am. I blew it all, man. All of it. I got this pacer at mile 60 waiting for me with my wife. They're like, they want to go to bed sometime. Like now it's going to be a 35-hour day or something, a 40-hour day, like a 48-hour day. These are all the things in your mind, like trying to convince you that you should maybe give up. But then you also realize that like, those are all the reasons like, not to give up, at the same, like there's these moments where you're almost there. And if somebody gave you like a button to push, like you might do it. But if you find a way around that, you start to realize, yeah, those, my pacer, Trevor, who I work with, and he's an amazing runner, like a really amazing runner. Trevor Fuchs, he's a genuine good guy. I started to realize like this is the reason to crawl forward is because I don't run with pacers a lot, but this might be a time to need a pacer more than I ever have before, And at that point, still a mile from this aid station where I knew they could put blankets on me. The sun's gone down now. It's starting to get cold. I couldn't eat yet. I thought if I can just get there and these people can take care of me, like maybe I can figure out a way to eat. And Trevor, who's waiting there, who I feel guilty and I feel like shame that I'm going so slow and I feel like I've failed. But I know honestly, like I need him more than ever, like it is beautiful that he has set aside time in his life to be out here because, he doesn't know it. But if I make it to him, like we're going to take double the time he thought to get to the finish line and he's going to have to drag me up these things. That's what I was thinking. So I get to the aid station 4 or 5 hours. I don't know. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but it's definitely over 3 hours after I should have. A lot of friends and family were watching the tracker going like, we don't even know where this guy is. Like, I'm not sure what's going on with this guy. I make it to this aid station up in Engineers, which is a hike in only. This is another thing. And I knew this. I could have turned around and went back to Uray. I could drop out there. I knew I couldn't drop out in Engineers. You can't drop there.
Smart.
It's a hike in only. So even though I wanted to drop out, there's a part of my brain that bullishly was pushing me forward into a position where I couldn't drop out, And I knew it. I was like, man, if I make it to Engineers, they're not going to let me drop out. It's so big of a hassle and I'm going to have to find a way to heal myself and move forward. So got to Engineers, dark out. They got all these lights on, they pull you into the aid station. It's cold, dude. They just have a tarp up and there's wind blowing under it. There's no sidewalls or anything. Like it's a hike in only,
Yeah.
And I'm under this blanket, and the guy's like, "It's electrolytes, dude. You don't have anything in your stomach, and you hadn't taken in enough salt, even though I thought I'd been taking in a ton of it." So he talks me into, sheepishly I was, is to drinking these little teeny bits of hot broth, salty broth, and that started to change things. You know, if I don't know if you've ever been dehydrated or whatever, you feel it like trickle down your chest, that warmth in there, and you're just like, "Oh man, something's working." I spent an hour at that aid station, about 56 minutes or something like that. It says on Open Split, getting better. Dark out. All these people are like streaming past. And so the ego's battling that. You know, you're doing these things. And whether you're elite, sub-elite, runner, walker, hiker, you are kind of battling like, is this thing worth it? Like, or did I just blow it? You know, but the part of me that wanted to keep going knew that, like, man, I'm super fortunate to have these people out here for me. I know I'm going to see them 6 miles from now at the next aid station, which is called Grouse. And I also knew that even though I was slightly embarrassed that I went out and maybe ran what people were thinking was an inspiring race. Now all of a sudden people are probably at home thinking, what's going on with this dude? And that's how my mind likes to think about it. I know that they're not thinking that, but there's part of me that thinks like, nah, they are. They're talking crap, dude. They're kind of going like, look at him, man, cashed in too many chips and here he is, messed it up. And so you just it's really tough to like, I think that's why we do these things is like, we want that battle with ourselves, the good versus evil, the point of growth. And so I was there. I made it to this point way late. I interacted with all these really cool people. I got to give a shout out to Nick Corey. You know, he's one of the founders of Era Viper Running. Him and his brother Jamil were both running the race. Nick is a negative split runner. He goes out easy on purpose. He believes in finishing hard and he believes in the negative split. He may still be for a while. He was the U.S. record holder for the 100-mile distance run on a track, like the fastest time. And he's a really good runner. He passed me before I got to this aid station, and he gave me some ginger chews and stuff that I puked back up as soon as I took. They didn't work the way they were advertised, but he said he's one of those guys all the time in the world. Jared Campbell, a guy out of Park City, he finished Barclays Marathon either 2 or 3 times. He's the only person to finish it that many times. He passed me. He was pacing a buddy of his. He gave me great advice too, and he gave me encouragement to keep going. These people, in addition to my own part of me that wasn't trying to kill myself or wasn't trying to quit the race, these people really helped keep me going. And so I left that aid station able to not puke anymore, like to walk without puking. And I had to climb about 900 or 1,000 feet to still hit the summit and then drop down like 4.5 or 5 miles to this next aid station. So I do that in the dark. Stars are out. I'm still feeling like garbage, but I'm not puking. And I'm moving really slow. I get to the top, and the downhill is all on this like 2-track ATV road, this famous road called Alpine Loop that a lot of ATVers go out and ride. It's stunning, but it's road. It's chunky. Problem with the road out here, when you get it, you think like, road running after all this like tough technical climbing and descending. It's like filled with these like boulders, man. Like it's worse than the trail. Like it sucks. At least to me, like my knees hurt. Yeah. And I'm just like, I'm happy to be moving. So I'm walking the downhill. I'm not even running it. I took a couple steps. I said, that hurts. I'm just going to walk it into the aid station. Like, that's fine. I walk for like 2.5 of those miles. And then, you know, that's the negative me. Like, I am doing it. I'm positive I'm moving forward, but I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm just walking it. Trevor and I are going to hike this thing out when I get to my pacer. But finally, you know, these groups, everybody had a pacer from Ouray, except for me. Everybody had a pacer except for me. I was the only one who didn't have a pacer at that point. That was an interesting little thing of like, okay, you probably could have had a pacer from Ouray, you know? But finally, a group of 2 passes me and I go, you know what, man? Like, try and jog behind them. Like, you're making these people wait forever. Like, they're waiting down there for you. You're just walking. Like, try and jog behind these people. Pretend they're your pacers or that you're a part of their crew. So I started and the legs hurt. But you find that rhythm and you're like, okay, the legs don't hurt quite as much. They don't hurt quite as much. I'm going to try talking with these people. I'm going to thank them. I'm going to tell them I'm going to, you know, say like, hey, I hope you don't mind that I'm like using you guys as pacers, but like, I can't do anything else right now. Like, I'm barely holding on here, you know?
Yep.
And it worked. And we started talking a little bit. And by the time I got into the aid station, I had a plan and I thought, okay, this is mile 62 or 60. Grouse, and we're going to climb to the highest point of the course after this. We're going to do handies. I've been over handies a couple times, but I knew I'm not done with being slow yet. I could now have food in without puking, but I hadn't taken a lot in because it's just like you don't want to risk it. And I knew I got to get into this aid station. I got to explain to my crew, Nicole and my pacer, what was going on because like nobody talked to them. But I have to eat food and I'm going to commit. I'm going to not do what I didn't do at Ouray. I'm going to be more vocal. I'm going to say what I need to do because they can't help me if I don't tell them what's going on. And that was the critical error in Ouray. It wasn't my crew going like, go dude, you're kicking butt. It was me not giving them the information they needed to help me. Like I was just silent. I let them like push me out of there and I paid dearly for it. So I get into this aid station and I tell Nicole and Trevor what are going on and thank them for being there. And the medical team set me down because Nicole was all worried for hours when nobody knew where I was. And they talked to me and told them I hit my head and they did a concussion protocol and they're pretty convinced I was all right. And I knew I felt all right too. So I was eating savory, solid foods. I had mashed potatoes. I had broth. I had something else. Can't remember what it was. And and then I said, I need to lie down like in your cot, in your medical tent. I need to take like a 20-minute nap. The goal was to eat and lie down and let that like, well, I just rested, let that stuff like percolate into my system and digest. So I did that. There's a funny picture. Nicole took a photo of me like with a smile on my face under the cot, Trevor standing there. And then we left 60 miles in and we climbed pretty well up to the highest part of the course. And talking with Trevor, I said, hey, this might be a long slog, man. Like, but I'm here. I know you're glad. I'm glad you're here with me. And we climbed up in the pitch dark to this highest part on the course. Smoke was bad there too. It was probably the worst in the whole course. And it was kind of cool though, because the headlamp's on and there's these particles like flying sideways in front of you. And it was like ash, which from a health standpoint, you're like, man, that's not like great, but it's kind of a beautiful thing in the moment in this night. And things had shifted for me. Like, and Trevor didn't know it yet, but I knew it. I was like, man, I can climb fine. You know, like if I can keep ingesting food and not get sick of it and keep these things going, like we're going to have a fun day. So we climbed up to the tallest part of the course. You're on this kind of like little ridge back for something and you drop down and we hit the first descent that I'd had with Trevor. And, we ran down to the next aid station, which leads 6 miles later into Sherman, Sherman is like, I guess it's like 75 or 76 miles in my head, because I'd been up it before. It felt like the last part of the race. It's this climb and you're up and you're undulating for about 8 miles, but at high altitude. And then there's like these 3 super steep staccato climbs before you get to the last 10 miles. And I break things out in chunks and then runners have all different ways of doing it. Right. And, and so, you know, you're like, oh, I'm a quarter of the way done, half done. And then you break it out into smaller points or bigger points, but we were moving well. We had our first little downhill section on the road. We came into Sherman. I had a Red Bull in a drop bag, my only drop bag on the course. And I was feeling good. I came in, we ate some more broth. I think I had a little bit of egg or something too. And then I pulled out this Red Bull and which I've never drank in a race before, but when I was younger, I had drank, I liked the taste of it, you know. I hadn't really any caffeine. And I was like, you know what? I need some caffeine. So I'm gonna have a little bit of this Red Bull. I remember telling the aid station guy, this guy saying, one time I chugged a Red Bull and at a 5K and I puked my guts out or whatever, you know? And I was like, well, the key is moderation. I had this 16-ounce Red Bull. I drank like 3.5 ounces of it, you know? And we left and we started the crux of the course to me, the last 25 or so miles. And Trevor was like, man, that Red Bull made you like you're on drugs right now. Like it was the second climb with Trevor. The sun was starting to come out again. You know how the sun can kind of reinvigorate things. And my body felt like it was a brand new day. Like I felt like I totally overcome what I had. And, but the whole goal of the day was to have fun and have a good time because Trevor was there. And because you went through that hard moment, I went through that hard moment and kind of came back. The goal now was like, let's just have fun. Let's just enjoy this. But it wasn't like sullen when I was hurting. It wasn't like, let's just like get through this at a slow pace. It's like, no, let's have fun. Let's enjoy this. We're back, man. We're having a good time. When I'd left Grouse, which is where I picked up the pacer, I was in 32nd place. I don't know where I was when we got to Sherman. I think I passed maybe 1 or 2 people, but I was probably 30. And over the next 25 miles, the last 15 with Trevor, I picked up my coach for the last 10. But over that last 25 miles, we went from 30th or 32nd back to 10th place overall. And not to glaze over that because it was fun, but it's what's incredible about 100-mile journeys, that you can start feeling good, feeling like you prepared. Your plan goes to crap for some reason or another. If you hold on, because I have given up before and many people give up, and there's nothing wrong with that in that moment. But hopefully one day you learn to stop giving up and you learn to get through those hard moments. And we all have moments we can't overcome, and we all have redemption moments. But if you get through in 100, we're likely to see this kind of miraculous thing that is very special, where you realize that hard moments are temporary, just as good moments are. And you can find the good moments again after hard moments, right? And so Trevor and I were moving through the course, climbing these climbs as fast as anybody else was climbing that day. In fact, when we descended the last few miles into Cunningham, before I picked up my coach for the last 10 as pacer, we ran that piece third fastest, at least in Strava parlance, which has been around for a while, third fastest that anybody has ever run it before, right? So I guess it is a little bit of a brag, and I don't mean it to sound that way, but you get on there and you look at it, and like Killian's there in number 2, and then like Zach Miller's there in number 5, and Trevor and I were sitting in like 3rd, 4th place on that thing, like, because it was just a special time, man. And so it was fun. And I think what's really fun about 100 milers is, we went from 32nd to 10th, and you pass these people in their pacers, and they're going like, "Is that Alex?" And they're like stoked that like I'm coming back and strong. And I'm going like, "What's up, dudes? Like, keep pushing. You're almost there." And you're racing. And I'm trying to be the best version of myself. And that means passing those people in that moment. That means getting a higher place for myself. And yet there's no malice. There's no like will or yearning to beat those individuals into the ground. It's only to achieve what you think is your potential, And so we took the last however many hours it was to clip off, to work our way back up, to work my way back up towards what felt like towards my edge, and we did it smiling and laughing and having a good time, and kind of laughing at the surprise of it all, that you could come back and you could move as fast as Trevor and I were moving together after having such a big low, So that, long story short, was a full night with Trevor, and we were talking, but a lot of it was silent. He moved behind me most of the time, 4 or 5 runner lengths back, like good cushion, but we just felt each other. And you'd look up and you'd see a mile in the distance, the next pair, or 2 or 3 pairs sometimes when you come over, and you just start to go like, it wasn't a goal to beat them, but they were moving posts of like, the next thing to catch is this group, and move on to the next one and say hi to them, and move on to the next one and say hi to them, and hit the aid stations and take in food and feel good and have good conversation. So I left him at mile 90. I picked Andy up. Andy and Nicole were there. They'd just gotten there like 5 minutes before, because they were like, they almost missed us. And that would have changed the whole race, because I wouldn't have had a pacer or a crew there. But it was because, like I was fudging the open split system, like my pace predictions weren't accurate. Like I went from being what was going to be, projected out to be a 40-something hour finish to like throwing the system and speeding up. So they just made it there. I picked him up. Andy was stoked. He was fresh legs. He starts pulling me up this brutal final climb. He's behind me. He's not Trevor. He's a different guy than Trevor. And he's like right on me. He's like breathing down my back. I just had this like relaxed vibe for hours and hours. Now I got Coach Andy, who's a high energy guy, on my back. He's going, "You're doing good, Alex. You're really good, man. We're almost there. There's the next person. Let's go get him." And he's doing exactly what he should be doing. But in the moment, I was like, God, this is like insane. Like he's pushing me way too hard. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to finish this race if he pushes me this hard up this climb. And I was into the same position I was in Uray, where I wasn't telling him what I needed, and I was going too hard, and I was starting to overheat on the last climb of this race. And so finally I was like, "Andy, you got to get in front of me, man. You're pushing me too hard." He got in front of me. I let him get like 6 runners ahead of me. And I just went what I could. And then Andy, he adjusted his pace. And so it's really interesting, like the whole dynamic. I don't do the pacer thing a lot, but like Trevor was great behind me. He was good in front of me. Andy went with the last 10 miles when I was starting to feel it, like it was like I had to kind of put him where I needed. And that's a weakness for me. I actually just usually accommodate what other people need. And in that race, I needed to be the one to say like, well, this is what I need. And I'm lucky that I did it there because it might not have ended the way it did. But yeah, we ended up passing 3 more sets of people to get into 12th overall and then 10th male. And again, coming down to the finish line, coming off that final climb, we were again running, which isn't a huge brag. We were running some of the fastest splits that have been run at that race. Now, just parlay that with most elite athletes don't take a 4-hour break, suffering. I do. So they might not have that much in the tank anymore, right? That's the difference there. But it was prideful to be able to do that. Andy, when we came over the top, he goes, there's a chance for top 10, but it's only if we hammer, man. And again, I had this negative moment in my head where I was like, hammer, dude. Like I've been hammering for like a long time, but it was there for like a half a mile. And then my legs opened up and we started moving, and that negative side, like my pouting mind left. My pouting mind was like, I've been hammering forever, dude. Like, what do you think, man? And then I was like, no, he's motivating me. Like, we need to hammer, man. And we opened up and we hammered, and we had a couple miles together where we were just flying downhill over this big chunky stuff. These moments where you just find yourself, the strongest version of yourself, Ryan, where you're on the trail and you're like, every step is like pretty dialed, man. Like those special moments as a runner. That's what we had for the closing kind of 5-6 miles down this hill into town. And Andy was just firing me up more and more. We're running super fast. He just run Western 2 weeks ago, but he jumped in with me the last 10 miles, and he's a fast guy and we're pounding. And I come down and pass a couple more runners. Unknowingly, I pass the male that gets me into top 10. He was the guy with Jared Campbell that had passed me 40 miles earlier. I didn't know that was hit the threshold though. So I'm like 3.5 miles from the finish, and I'm going like, I got to keep pounding, see if I can like maybe make it. The guy could still be in front of me, could be behind me. I'd passed him, but I didn't know. And I keep pounding. And Andy is like, almost laughing that we're pounding so much. And he goes like, get it, man. And I leave Andy behind for like the last 2 miles of the race and pound in. And there's some cool drone footage of like my kind of finish where the if you listen to the announcers, they're like, who is this person, man? Like nobody really knows like who I am, And so that's kind of funny. But yeah, I'm coming down and when I was on the trail yet, maybe a mile and a half out, that's when I really had what I guess is important to me in these events, and it's needed sometimes. This is moments of like pride, and I had them throughout my whole training cycle, but it comes full circle when you have a tough day and you get through it. And you're coming to the finish line and you go, I can't believe all these people helped me all day on the course, other runners, other people taking numbers, my wife, my coach, my pacer, like they're out here. And the most important thing to me was that like, I didn't give up on myself, like in front of them, even though I had moments of wanting to give up and moments where I throttled back the ambition in your moments of doubt, like I still kept it moving one foot in front of the other, right? And it's like the funniest thing ever in running where it's like, yeah, just one foot in front of the other. And it's true. It's the most tangible form of committing to get something done. And it was really special hitting town, seeing some people at this place where the bag drop had been. It's a ski resort, and you kind of know you're getting near the finish, and there are Hardrock people there and they're cheering you on, and you're coming home and you're just like kind of, you almost want to get emotional, but you're going like, that's not yet time. Like, just enjoy it, man. Like you're coming to the finish line, like be present, be grateful you're out here. One of the things I was saying in my lowest moments, even when I was trying to quit, mentally out myself, I was saying like, I have it written down here because I thought like, he's going to ask me all these questions. I kept saying like, I'm grateful to be here, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to suffer in a way that I deem positive for myself. Some people have to suffer in horrible situations that they don't choose, You and I and all these other runners, we get to choose where we challenge ourselves and we do it intentionally to bring it back to our personal life so we can be better human beings to our family, to our loved ones, to our bosses, to our coworkers, in our jobs, all that. And so, getting to the finish line, I think for anybody is that moment to celebrate and go, you know what? Like, I chose to do this. I chose to train for it. I wanted to give up during it, which is weird because I chose to take on this opportunity, but I didn't. I persevered and I made it to the finish line, and that was the end of Hardrock for me. You get to the finish line, they have this big rock. I liken it to the Blarney Stone that I learned about in elementary school. You kiss the Blarney Stone, you kiss this hard rock that's painted. You come up, that's your finishing time. They clock your stop time when you kiss the rock. And then,
That's awesome.
like any 100-miler, pretty happy to be done. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Wow, dude. Wow. I could sit here and listen to you tell this story. Any more details? I'm just enjoying every bit of this.
Yeah, I do have to. I tried to warn you at the beginning. I am a talker, so the details might get a little boring sometimes. But yeah,
No, they were great.
That was the race, and it was fun. And again, I think one thing that's important to me is this race more than any others. I'm always reminded, and I think you probably are too, of the community, of the time your family dedicates towards letting you do this, of the responsibilities you skip out on, like even while you hold down your job and do all these other things, there are sacrifices made by those people. And so that thankfulness, I really try to carry it forward in my life. It's funny. It likes to try and erode itself away and you get back to like just life and forgetting about those things. But I try to use these experiences to remind myself of how lucky I am and thankful to everybody, like my wife, Nicole, like Ben at Perfect Feet, like my coach, Andy, like Trevor and his wife, Tempest, and their kids. They came out and camped with us in an RV next to us, like just put their time into the race to help me get through it. And that's just the people that were tangibly there, right? There are my friends and family that are watching online. Like there are the people that use your finish or my finish as inspiration to fuel their own journeys. And like, it's not just that I'm inspiring them. Like I'm grateful and thankful to them that they would put that time and energy into watching me, because that actually helps fuel my finish too, and I'm glad I can give something back to them. And I think that's part of the thankfulness I had at the end too, of like, look, like, is it the best finish I could have ever hoped for personally for me? Like, it's not the best I could do at that race, but getting through the tough part and the back 42 so miles were about as magical of a race as I could have. And if there's any karmic or like larger play that happens where you get rewarded sometimes at the end of the day, I don't need a top 5. I don't need a win. I watched Rocky the other day, and there's this moment before he fights in the first movie. He goes to the arena and he comes back and he lays down with his partner and he kind of wakes her up. He goes like, I can't do it. I can't win. I can't beat Apollo Creed. And she goes, great partner. She goes, well, what are we going to do about it? And he goes, well, if I could just go the distance with him, I can't beat him, but nobody's ever went the distance, that really hit me. I watched it after Hardrock, and that is such a beautiful line, especially for runners, because it's like going the distance, right? But like it says a lot. It's like I'm not a guy, and I don't think most of us runners are like, we don't need to go out and be the best runner in the world and win these things overall and have sponsorships and be like the face of products. Like a lot of us don't need that, but like there are a lot of us that need to know that we can go the distance with ourselves. And I went the distance that day, and I was rewarded for it a little bit with just the best support crew and memories that will last a lifetime, and just a little better picture of myself to me, because outside people are like, I know that guy, like I can see that guy for what he is. The internal version of us, like it's really tough to see ourselves at our best, but we have these few moments where if you play by the values that you hold dear to yourself, you may be rewarded with a little bit better clarity of the good person that you are, that we all are, and I hope I can just like hold on to that and like help other people have those moments for themselves. And and move that forward. So yeah, that was Hardrock for me.
Dude, what an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that with us. I think that's, just a couple of thoughts that I have. One, I always ask people what their why is. Honestly, you've said it over and over and over. You've done a great job of explaining, one thing that just really stands out about your race is just your determination, your commitment, your willingness to just keep going after. I mean, one setback after another, after another, after another, and you just keep going, and that's inspiring. And I think it's amazing that you just continue to keep pushing no matter what. And it's in a lot of ways, man, just an honor to know you. Like, I'm grateful to call you a
I
friend.
feel the same for you, man.
Yeah,
I'll share one more thing because again, there's this difference, again, if I'm considered a decent runner, a sub elite, there's something that happens when you get closer to the pros a little bit is that like you can get to know them a little better than like you do on just the marketing stuff. Right. And so like, I talked with Courtney after the race the next morning at the awards ceremony. And I said like, man, I had a heck of a time out there, dude. She crushed it. If you know Courtney Dauwalter, she's one of the GOATs. She's unbelievable. She's the same age as I am. She's 41 and she's still at the top of her game. And in my mind, she's the GOAT, dude. Like she just went out and broke her own record. She finished hours ahead of me. I ended up finishing in 32 hours. She ran a 26:11 or something like that. Between you and everybody who's listening, you and I and everybody who's listening to this, I'd hoped to spend a little more time running closer to her. My internal potential that I judge, I'm like, man, Courtney's like the GOAT, dude. And like, but I wanted my time to be in that like 24 to 27 hour time range. Didn't happen. I still had an amazing race. Talking to Courtney about it. And she goes, man, what is it with puking out here, man? Like she suffered super hard. What I was talking about that last quarter of the race where I was like, this is the crux. This is where I'm looking forward to crushing. When she was up there hours ahead of me, she was puking her guts out for miles and miles.
Jeez.
And overcame that and maybe she had as much self-doubt as I did. Maybe she had less, maybe she had more, but I don't know. But what I do know is that we often think there are these divisions between us and these different classes of runners or whatever you want to call it, the people that are better, yada, yada, yada. She went through an individual, an intimate journey of her own with dark places that were just as dark to her as mine were to me. And she did that well, like breaking the record and continuing to be the GOAT, right? And so I think what's really cool about that is like, it's really awesome that we look up to these people that like statistically are running these pretty amazing feats, these fast races, but their experiences are oftentimes, not always. And I think you go down in distance, you see these machines who maybe can do it without suffering quite as much. But even then, I think in training and stuff, they're battling the same things we are. But yeah, that's the point, is that like these people performance wise are like, they're amazing and they worked hard for it and they earned these freakish performances that makes them the GOATs. But their winnings and their experiences and the self-doubt they're overcoming isn't that different from our own. And so I really hope that, it's inspiring to have these finishes and these people to look up to. And even me, like me getting my top 10, and that's like top level for me, man. Like, so it is inspiring. Like I was performing up there, dude, like at the top of what I can do. We all have that in us to do that. And those battles that the individuals are out there fighting in their job every day, in their 100-miler journey, like when they're running, they're no less important than these elites that are crushing on their own. And I guess what I got at the end of Hardrock for me is this does not happen to me a lot. I wish it did. I hope it happens to other people more than it does for me. I was inspired by myself a little bit.
That's awesome.
And that's almost the greatest gift that a person who has a lot of self-doubt and a lot of self-hate could get, is to actually be impressed by, inspired by, and proud of themselves, right? Because I actually feel like that's something that like I can take with me. It actually changes the person that I am a little bit. And I got that in other 100-milers in different doses. Sure. But this one was a special one, man. And to see all these people support me, to be privileged enough to live and train for the race the way I wanted to, and And to see it pay off, not monetarily, I'm not a pro athlete, to see it pay off
But yeah,
with maybe me having less self-doubt, less self-criticism, less self-hate for myself moving forward, that is like a pretty magical thing. And so if that's all anybody out there gets from what they do that they're passionate about, I think that's probably enough, man, because it's pretty powerful currency, man. I bring it back to my family, my friends, my coworkers, and I spread a little bit more positivity than I was spreading before,
yeah. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. And I 100% agree with you. If it makes you a better person, like you said, if you walk away from it and you say, I'm a better person because of this and it helped change me, just like I've said, like empowerment, if you will, like this is what changed my life, getting into ultra running and made me who I am. I'm just like, this was all worth it, every bit of it. So I love that you share that because it really does. Like, it's cool to hear that from you. And like you said, whether you're top 10 or you're DFLing, right? You're dead freaking last. You know what? For you to go out and whatever that race is, it doesn't even have to be Hardrock. It can be the smallest 100-mile race out there, just some small backyard one that only gets 10 people to do it. And you're the last person and you're barely coming in a cutoff. It's impressive. It is so cool to see, and you find something different about yourself. You go deep, you do something that you feel is almost impossible. It's a beautiful thing. And I think that's what's so beautiful about running. And dude, I just appreciate having you on. Like, everything you shared, your story is gonna just, I think it's, in a lot of ways, I feel like this was really good for you to share because I feel like you've been able to decompress it a little bit. I know that was something you kind of had mentioned to me before, but hearing the story is inspiring, dude. And you're gonna inspire. And again, I know that's not necessarily maybe your intention and it wasn't necessarily what you were looking for to do, but hearing this story, I'm just like, wow, like, I can't wait to get back out and get, tomorrow and get training for Wasatch again, right? I got Wasatch here in a month and a half and then, Bear a couple weeks after that. And I'm like, let's go, dude. Like, and again, I always say, like, you can't live on inspiration. You can't live on motivation because it's fleeting. You gotta be consistent. You gotta be dedicated, but it is good once in a while to get a shot of it and just be like, you know what? I needed to hear this because this is going to motivate me to keep getting after it and push. And so, dude, just thank you. Thank you for what you shared here. And I think I can't wait to share this episode because I think it's going to be really good for people to hear what it's like to go the distance at Hardrock and for someone who really actually just crushed it and finished top 10, like, just an inspiring story. So, dude, I really appreciate it. I know we've ran a little bit long here.
That's all good, man.
Yeah, but this has been absolutely amazing. So, without further ado, one last question I'll throw at you, and then we'll wrap it up. And again, it's kind of hard for me to ask because you've like answered every one of these questions. I don't know what else to ask.
Like circles, man. I just like help.
It's good. It's good because I'm like, my question that I'm asking, I'm like, you've already answered it like 10 times. It's the same question I end with every person I have on. If someone right now has lost their why, whether that's with running, or whether that's with life, what bit of information or what bit of advice would you share with them?
Like, it's everybody's moments, their highs and lows are completely different. There's a couple things you got to do. Is like, the first and foremost is like, everybody's community is different, and some people don't feel like they have a community, and some people haven't found their community. Some people have a large one, but community, if you have it, if you have a friend, if you have a mom, if you have a dad, if you don't talk to those people because you're on the outs with them or whatever, like, if you have somebody, I think that community is a great place to start. You need it somewhere. You guys do great work at the run club on Saturdays. So you lose your why. It's like, well, where's that community, And that community, to a person that talks negatively in their head, that community might be like, well, I got one or two people. I haven't talked to them in 6 months. And because I haven't talked to them in 6 months, my brain's telling me that they think I don't like them anymore. Like, they've already written me off as like too far gone for them to interact with anymore. But you're not. You know where your couple people in the world are. And you know that when you pick up the phone and call them or text them or go see them or have dinner with them, as intimate as you can get is what I would promote, that they're the people that you shake the dust off and you're right back to like square one with them, So I think that's very important. You can do a lot of things on your own, but if you really lost your why, it's important to have that community, and I guess the only other thing I would pair with that, there's probably many other things you could do. I guess there's two things, because there's like professional help If you have the ability to go and talk to a professional, especially if you don't think like you have a community, I would highly encourage it. That's like super important. The only other thing I would pair with that is say, like, what's something that's not social media that like makes you laugh and smile genuinely? And even if it is like your favorite movie, like that's great too. But if there's something more tangible than that, if you like walking down a path and like seeing the ducks get up ahead of you and scamper into the pond because you pushed them there, but that makes you chuckle because they're so beautiful and weird, like you should do that. Like whatever it is, it's like what makes you smile and laugh, and then like community. Even if it's tough, take that leap of faith and reach out to that community, whether it's at your fingertips or if it feels unachievable, like reach out to your friends and just try to look for those little things that make you smile. And I think day by day, that won't change it. You get a nice little genuine smile out of the ducks running into the pond or whatever, like it doesn't change your whole life. But if it can give you enough motivation to go like, and I'm going to see them ducks like 3 times a week, it might lead into what you're talking about, which is consistency of working at something that provides you with meaning. And that's what you do so well. If you look at Ryan's Strava, he's not the runner I am. I don't run in the mornings. And I mean that in a way that's saying like you are committed, dude, like clockwork. You're out on that same piece of trail weekday mornings. You do change it up, but like I just look at top down. I just like look at the general area. I'm like, he's over on the edge of Layton again, man, running that BST. He's doing it every freaking morning, man. And I see it at like 8:50 a.m. I'm like, I rolled out of bed at like 8:30. I'm like, I got to go to work, man. And then I'm like, there's Ryan again. Damn, dude. Like he's crushing. I'm an evening runner for the most part, but find that community, find that happy place, put a little consistency in with those two things. And, remember that like the low times are temporary, just like they are in a race, even though sometimes they can last for months in the real world, maybe years, for sure. Years for some people. They can be temporary. If you focus a little bit, just a little bit, you can find that little bit of joy in life and get through it.
I love it, dude. Thank you. And I love it because, we've had people on here that say community as well, but I do love that you said, find something that just makes you happy. Whenever I find something that brings me happiness, like my daughters, my wife, as much as silly as it may sound, my cat brings me happiness, man. And you're right. It can bring you up. So I love that, dude. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for your kind words too. That means a lot. And, I always just say I'm not a fantastic athlete, but one thing I will say is I'm probably the most consistent and the most stubborn person out there. So I may not be gifted physically, but I'm going to give it my all and try my best. So
you are, man. Again, it's like metrics aside, like that's where it's like, what are we doing this for? We're working to wring out our own sponge of potential on where we're at, and there are things in life that like, if you graded them, you would be better than me at. If you're grading the performance of running, I guess that changes things, but you should always just grade yourself, hold yourself accountable to the peers that you surround yourself in that grade, and like, do your best, man, and forget the rest. That's what Tony Horton says, who did P90X. That's a little throwback there.
There we go. P90X. There we go. I like that. That's good. Yep. Well, awesome. Well, Alex, dude, it has been a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much. So much great advice. And what a fantastic journey that you shared with us, dude. It truly has been a pleasure. So awesome. Well, dude, thank you. Thank you for your time tonight. Thanks for spending a few hours with me.
Yeah, thanks too, Ryan. I really appreciate your time, man. Appreciate you letting me tell my story.
Hey, runner. Thanks for hanging out with me today on Reimagine Running. I'm grateful you're here and a part of this great podcast. I just want to remind you, if you ever feel stuck, unsure, or just want someone in your corner, I do offer coaching for runners at any distance. Whether you're starting out with the 5K or you're chasing some crazy big goals and dreams like a marathon or the 100-miler, I'd love to help you. Please reach out and I'd be happy to set up a time to go over options and plans and goals with you. Well, until next time, take care of yourself, trust the process, stay disciplined, and keep chasing that why.